Welcome to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, discussing all things audiobooks with the authors that write the stories and the narrators that perform them. Brought to you by Viviana, Enchantress of Books.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 8 of the Audiobook Lovin Podcast. Also, the first episode of 2022, so Happy New Year. Our first guest for this year is narrator Samantha Brentmoor. Welcome, Samantha, to the Audiobook Lovin Podcast.
I'm really happy to be here. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year, too. And you're my first this year. I'm so excited.
Woo! Let's kick it off great.
Absolutely.
Let's just make everybody so excited for the podcast this year.
No, yeah, lots of fun happening. And this year with a couple of new things. And actually, I'm trying something new with you later. So that's going to be fun. So many questions.
I love trying new things.
Oh, new things are always a good thing. As long as there's permission and consent, we're always good there, right? So why don't we start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been narrating, and how you became a narrator.
Yeah. So I have been narrating romance since roughly 2015. I've been doing voiceover outside of this genre on the side since about 2008-ish. I started in commercials and cartoons, and I actually had to find a studio space to get my commercials recorded before I went to my day job. So I started sneaking into a studio and paying them for the time.
I was going to say damn.
Yeah, I know. I wish that I was such a cool cat burglar that I was I found a studio and I snuck in. But no, I slipped in before hours and paid for some studio time before I had to work my day job. And while I was there, over the years that I was there, they sent me some auditions and I started doing audiobooks from there. And it was never a real focus of mine because I had a pretty demanding day job. But back in about 2015, I started doing more romance and started doing some other content, and my career took off a little bit more. And probably in about 2018, I started focusing on it a little bit more. And now I primarily do voiceover in all audiobook genres, cartoons, video games, and commercials. And then I'm a producer over at Brickshop Audio in Brooklyn.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great community to be a part of. And it's so awesome.
It is. I know, especially the past couple of months, it's, oh my God, Samantha. Oh my God. Have you heard about did you listen to the book that Samantha narrated? Oh,
no.
Yes, it is. And I'm it's almost like someone standing outside my door back in 80s movie reference with the box and just say, Samantha Brentmoor, must listen to her. And I'm like, I am. Stop it. Yeah, but it's so awesome. God. Yeah, I love it. Who are you listening to today? Samantha Brentmoor. I'm
get out.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, thank you. That makes me, I'm getting hot under the collar. But thank you. That's really amazing to hear. But yeah, thank you.
Well, it's I think it needs to be said because a lot of times I think because of the genre that we're primarily in being romance, and the listeners, the majority of us are women and cis straight women, we tend to go goo gaga over the guys.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then it becomes, and oh my God, her guy voice is so sexy. And that's fine. But I'm also it's co-narrated, girl. Come on. Show some love.
Yeah, I feel you on that. It's so much a partnership between the two narrators, and I'm not going to fault anybody for wanting to drop their panties for any of the male narrators that I have co-narrated with or not co-narrated with, because I get it. I'm a cis straight white woman. I think they are very panty melting, but I do think that we see ourselves, we hear ourselves in these characters, and there is a different kind of connection that you can have with the other voices, and it always makes me feel so amazing when people reach out and tell me that stuff. So
yeah. And the fact that you guys bring this depth into the performance and can make a character that we may not like on paper because she being a bitch or whatever, or she's not strong enough and she's being flighty. I'm make a decision already, damn it. But it's
I know,
Samantha
bitches do be
narrating
dumb
it.
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, really? But it's Samantha, narrating it, or it's Aaron Mallon, or oh my God, it's Andy Arendt, and it's like, okay, I will survive this. It gets better, and or you'll bring something different to it. Like, oh, I didn't read it with my eyeballs that way, but you performed it differently, and I'm like going, oh, yeah, okay, I like that way better. Like that's the reason.
Yeah. It's tricky sometimes with these because, some of them are, because of their subgenre, bring more difficult characters to it. Sometimes because of the subgenre, if it's not a difficult character, I sometimes find that, hard to do, because I'll go, okay, Miss Susie Sunshine, like, where is your complexity? Where's your, where are your flaws? But I think that's so much of the work that we bring to it through the way that we read it, through conversations with authors and saying, okay, well, what's not on the page that we can bring there? And it is so satisfying to find those little pieces of all of the characters, no matter what subgenre, that gives them just a little bit more like breath in the balloon to make them feel a little bit more 3D. So they're not just some, like, I don't know, some dumb cupcake cooking bitch who can't make up her mind that you want to slap around. She's got depth and issues too.
Yeah. And sometimes those are like those side characters that you're going, oh, thank God. And then you're like, what do you mean she has a book? And it's just book 7. And I'm going, oh, the author better redeem her.
But isn't it satisfying when they do get redeemed?
It is. And it's just one of those things where you're going, okay, how is this going to play out? And then, that scenario thing. And then we're like, okay, well, who's going to narrate it?
Right. I'm cautiously optimistic, but who's my narrator and what's really going on with this chick?
Yeah, exactly. That's where I say that's, I think it's important to share those moments of like going gaga over you guys for a variety of reasons, from the voice to how you guys are, to, your social media presence, to taking the time to talk to us as listeners, whether here on the podcast or on IMDMs on social media. So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh, my deepest pleasure. It's such an isolated and lonely career. And so it's so awesome to be a part of a community that is so active and honestly influential. I mean, don't discredit the power of the fan base for, in this community. I think you guys influence, stories, the way that they're written, the way we perform and tell them, those kind of stories we, want to do. And it's just so nice to, you spend so much time prepping and recording and doing these. And it's so nice when they release and they come back up in conversation and we get to revisit them because we spend so much time by ourselves working on them. So it's great to be able to share it. So thank you for having me. Yeah,
no, of course. Thank you. In fact, when you were talking about, sneaking into the studio for a second there, I'm like, well, that would make a fun novel. She sneaks in the mornings prior to the studio opening to get her recording done. And then he finds her.
Yes. Oh my gosh. This has to be written. We have to put it out in the morning.
Yeah. Narrated by Samantha Brentmoor. Fill in the blank for whatever male narrator you want. Oh, okay. No, I was like, who can write that? Gotta figure that out. But that was like literally what I saw, which is kind of also how a lot of listeners say that when they read a book or they listen to the book, it's almost like watching a movie. Yeah,
for sure.
When you read books for fun or even at work, do you ever like see it in the movie, or how does that process for you go?
Oh yeah, always. So it's funny, I can't really listen to audiobooks because of the nature of my work, both as a producer and as a performer. I can't turn off my work brain when I listen to stuff too much. So if I'm listening to audiobooks, it's usually for work and not for pleasure as much as I would like, because the performers are amazing. So when I do read, it is a very kind of filmic experience. I like listening to, like, finding the right music to listen to either while I'm listening or reading a book, or, around the same time. So I find like having a soundtrack is always really helpful. And I see things, especially like some authors are just like such beautiful writers and they give you all of that, whether or not it's in their banter or, and that you can just see the scene and you can see the way these characters are, or their descriptions of a place. Yeah, I always definitely see it that way. And it's great when you hear the right talent, I get to hear so many of my co-narrators doing, their sections of things. And it can really be so exciting and really kind of stimulating of my creativity when I can hear a co-narrator's take on any of the characters that we're both voicing. And it can be the last piece of the puzzle. And all of a sudden it's like, I can see their face. I can see exactly the type of person they are. So yeah, I think it's really powerful what we do, and it's really collaborative, right? Because it's what the author's written, what we're bringing to it as performers. And then I think listeners add that last piece where they kind of envision the visuals that we're all trying to give to them.
Yeah, it's almost like a puzzle where you're putting in your pieces and other narrators that are in part of the project, and then the production and the authors in there all around, and then like the listener might be that last piece, and then we see that whole picture. It can be but I know it's very isolating for you guys. Do you, as a narrator, talk to your authors and your co-narrators when it comes down to getting that information about, okay, what range are you really doing for this voice?
Totally.
Yeah.
So I'm a total slut for pre-recording conversations and references. I think it's really important. We can all have, authors are really good about giving you a sense of characters, and more, especially the authors that know they're going to audiobook, include little clues for their vocal notes. But it's really important for me because you can still interpret it so many different ways. So being able to go back and forth and sending each other little samples of what we sound like, or just kind of notes, if people don't have time to record, it's a really important step for me, both with the authors and with my co-narrators. And, it gets fun because, I've worked with Jason for a long time, Jason Clark. And, at a certain point, you can just be like, I'm just doing your growly, sexy billionaire boss boy for this. But if you want to go a different route, you tell me, because I'm familiar with a lot of stuff that he does. So I love it.
Just imagine those voice notes. So I'm going to talk like this. And him going, I don't sound like that. And I'm like, yeah, you do. But it's important too, because your voice has a particular range and you can manipulate that only so far. And then you have, like you said, Jason, who has a very deep, growly voice when he wants to, but he can also have a nice, smooth, sweet kind of voice. But then also, like, your recent release is with like Troy Duran, and he has a different voice as well. So having those notes, I'm like, because you want to make sure that it's not like cartoonish, because this is not that job, it's the other job.
Which is hard. It's a hard knob for me to kind of finesse. I definitely feel like, I get really paranoid and in my head and insecure a lot of times. And I just have to let it go and be like, okay, that's what it is. And it'll be there. But sometimes I'll walk away from something and be like, I think I like turned the volume on that character up like a little too much. Like they felt a little too cartoony, which you definitely don't want in these, because again, like we were saying, the listeners fill in that last puzzle piece of that visualization. I think a lot of it is that, I'm not fooling anybody. As good as I can get a male voice, I'm not going to fool anybody that I'm like pretend like I am Jason Clark. So I have to give you something that is enough to get you in that mindset, and that, again, you as a listener kind of fill in the rest of the blanks. But I hear you. Sometimes being too cartoony can really take you out of it. And I fear I've probably done any number of characters that were like, who is this character?
But the other way I like to think about it is that it's interesting how our brains work. So how you sound to me is different how you sound to somebody else, even to yourself. So while I, as the heroine in this book, here's you, the best friend, in a particular way, when now the best friend has the book, it sounds different because it's coming from a different set of ears, basically.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of give that sound of grace a little bit, and like, okay, so that makes sense. Sometimes I'm going, oh, you like, I always wonder, like, did you not get the note that that character has a book of their own in book 7?
Well, sometimes they don't, right?
No, they don't.
Sometimes we get hired by, companies and clients that don't give you any kind of insight onto where this is. And when you ask and you say, hey, this seems like it's part of a series, do you have any notes or samples from before? You know, a lot of times they can't provide those, and or they won't connect you to an author. So you're kind of going off on your own because you don't have access to that information. And even when you do, you know, I did a whole book series back to back last year, and you know, it was a spinoff from another one, but you know, there were all these characters that returned and had a huge, just like chart of all these insane characters. And by the end of it, like, you know, I still made adjustments like you're talking about and tried to keep the spirit of the character alive, right? Because I know their journey, I know what they've been through. Obviously, accents you keep, but you know, as much, even if I sound different in book 7 of this series than book 1 for a certain character, you know, it is from a different perspective. And you hope that maybe if they're, you know, they still feel sassy and snarky throughout, even if it kind of adjusts a little bit differently. But yeah, consistency, it's a bitch.
Oh yeah. You know, but I mean, it's important. And as long as it's enough, I think it's
Right.
from a listener perspective. And I know there's some reviewers out there and listeners that are like, damn it. And I'm like, dude, she's only human. Stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Leave it alone. It's fine. It's good. It's good. It's good.
Good enough. Yeah.
No, but I think that sometimes we're like, you guys are really hard on yourselves. And then us as listeners, the fans sometimes can be really hard on specifically the female narrators, more so than the guys. I've noticed.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
it comes down to reviews, and I'm like, you didn't say that about Jason. Love you, Jason.
No, but I mean, at this point, Jason can get away with murder, and the romance community will cover up for him. You know, as they should. But yes, I hear you on that. That it can be tricky, and you know, I think it's also tougher. I don't know, maybe a male narrator doing the female voices is you know, a more forgivable sin if they're not hitting the mark than a female. I don't know, you know, it could be back to what we were talking about for the listener's experience, but I know that you were right, that at least for myself, I'm very in my head and incredibly hard on myself, and there's somebody that in the community that I've been DMing up with a lot, and we laugh about how much I actually really adore bad reviews, and like mean Jimmy Kimmel mean tweets is just like a wonderful, I don't know, I guess I have a dark heart or something. So I can't, and it is because, you know, like you said, we're all only human, and I can't possibly please everyone. I know my voice is not, you know, what some people want to hear. And I accept that. And I can't be hurt if you heard me do something and I feel terrible if I ruined a story that you love, of course. And I'm going to think about like, how do I do this better and not, but you know, you can only spend so much time beating yourself up about it.
Well, up to interpretation and what we think and hear, and then what it happens. And especially when the author does a way to describe something, there's only so much control that the person is going to sound like what you described.
There are a lot of elements too, right? Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It's what the author put down, but also there's a lot of other pieces here where sometimes an author is involved and you send a sample that feels right for a character, and an author will give you a note and go, actually, it needs to be this way. And that I, as an actor, can say, oh, that feels different, but you wrote the text, so I need to be true to that.
You're paying the bill.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the director at a studio or the producer, you know, there are other, and sometimes it's just the two of us, or I recorded after my male narrator and he made a choice for a character that I kind of need to follow, because what's more important, to be consistent with what he's doing, or, you know, try to fudge it a little bit so it's closer to the character itself. There's so many moving pieces, and you just hope, you're like, okay, did all my preparation, did my best, and hope it sticks and it works.
Yeah. And part of that preparation, what is that routine for you as far as prepping the book once you've been cast?
I really just delight in this genre. So the second I get the manuscript, I have to, you know, really, I just want to consume it so quickly. So I usually speed read to get a sense of what I'm in for as soon as possible. And then when I go back, I read it a second time, slower and more carefully. I use an app called Notability that allows me on my iPad to mark it up and have a second, you know, tab open with more detailed notes. But I use a color coding system. So it's become really useful for me, especially on any of the fantasy stuff I do. And I think because I started out in shorter form stuff like cartoons and commercials, got really developed the muscle of wanting to show up into the booth and like after warm-ups, obviously just going in and record. So I try to prep my script as much as possible so that I could just pick it up cold and get into it. So for me, that means before every chapter, I jot down kind of what happens in there, even if it's not a me chapter, just so I can keep track of the plot and where it's at. And then if it's a me chapter, at the top of the chapter, I sort of mark the colors that I've associated for the different characters. So I know as I'm doing my vocal warm-up for that day, okay, this is a scene that has like 3 of the motorcycle bros in there. So I really need to do my warm-up so I can get as like growly and bassy as I can. Or, this is the group of girlfriends on the girls' night out. So I need to think about my prep kind of differently that way. And the color coding system kind of helps me keep track because I kind of know in my head, like what that light yellow means for me as a voice or what, this deep green means. So it's also a really easy tool for me to kind of slip into what a voice kind of sounds like. And then the notes on the side kind of help flesh out some things that I really need to keep in mind about this character. Let's say they've got a big secret that doesn't get revealed until later or something like that. And then I go into the booth, do my vocal warm-ups, and it's all right there on the script that I do on that second read through.
The moment she says spreadsheet and she says color coding, I think I fell in love.
Oh, nerd.
Yeah. Color coding. Oh, be still my heart. You mentioned about the sorry, go ahead.
No, I just have like a rainbow bright. Like you'd look at a thing, you'd be like, oh, whoa, this is a child's coloring book. And it's like, no, there's a system.
Yeah.
There's a system.
Yeah. At the day job, I'll do things on my spreadsheet and they're going spreadsheet. And I go, mm-hmm. So I'm waiting for someone to say something funny. And then they see the color coding and they're going, you're color coding things? I'm like, listen, I can look, don't have to read the information on my cells. And I know that I have 2 of this, 3 of that, and 4 of that waiting for me. And they're like, damn, like I go color coding.
Color coding. I'm a fan.
Yes. You mentioned the vocal warm-ups. What does that look like for you for those different types of grouping?
Oh, I don't know. Probably just insert the most obnoxious like theater performer person that you've ever seen. That's probably what I look like doing it. I do really bad having to do the same thing over and over again. So I really vary up what I'm doing for my warm-ups and whatnot. And there's a couple things that I use beyond just your tongue twisters and your, octave warm-up things. There's this, it's called, I think it's canthal. Hold on, I have it here. I'm in my booth. Yeah. It's canthal. It's this like, I'm going to show it to you. It's there are these little Indian lozenges that I use. And when my allergies are kind of weird out here, so I definitely I suck some canthal to like get the muck out. And then, basically just a corny actor who does tongue twisters and like, sings and belts and tries to get it down and work on my breath support and find, depending on the book I'm doing or the characters, whether or not I need to get real growly or because I've got a sort of mid-range voice. So especially if there are characters that are higher, I definitely have to warm up my upper and lower registers a lot.
So suggestions and ideas for Samantha for her social media stuff is get her to do her mean reviews in different character voices and record herself doing some of these warm-ups.
No, I'm mortified. I think I would be
kidding.
If I was in one of those situations where my like web camera just like randomly turned on in my booth and somebody had a live stream of me warming up, I would never survive it. I would be like, oh my God.
We live in a world of audio. That would be enough. Okay.
true. It's true.
The audio alone, I think, would be good. But no, it's very
I
interesting what you
mean,
guys do.
yeah, my male warm-ups will just sound like a boy going through puberty because it's just trying to be like, how long can I get down there? How low can I get? Hello, how can I? Well, and now my voice is breaking, and apparently I'm a 13-year-old boy again.
Puberty.
Mhm.
Gotta love it. So
Mhm.
how do you yeah,
Really?
those are just ideas and suggestions for social media posts. Just kidding. Just kidding. Would never. But like I said, even the audio would be fun for just shits and giggles.
Mhm.
So when it comes down to the characters and that you've done your prep work and everything, how do you decide how they're going to sound and the tones you're going to use?
So let's definitely start with what the author has given, and build a kind, and then sort of tiered from there is what's the information I have from the author, what like prevalent are they as a character, do I know that they've got another book coming up, are they just a one and done shopkeeper, are they a best friend, kind of figuring out how prevalent they are throughout the book or the series. And then I mean, to be honest, there's certainly and again, this might just be some of the cartoon commercial work where your voice is much more sort of exactly like the type or character type that they want you to do when you go in there, and you have to kind of back to back do all 5 options and sound like a crazy person. So for me, for romance, I definitely have a stable of female and male characters that are the first ones that I go to for voices for main characters and friends, and then kind of tweak them from there based on where my the additional information I have and the choices that my co-narrator has made. So it's everything from thinking about it from like texture, how much kind of gravel do they have in their voice, to melody, are they kind of very melodic or not, are they curt and blunt, like kind of thinking in the voice, and then you go to kind of exactly, and then you kind of go to pitch from there. And if I have a hard time, I'll kind of review how, like, what lines they normally have and how they communicate. Some authors are so incredible about giving such distinct voices in the writing to their characters that the way that they communicate with each other, just out of the text, I can hear what they sound like. And some authors, a lot of the characters, maybe because they're friends or something, all are written on the page very similar with their dialogue. So it's a little bit more up to me to make those choices. But and when I need fresh voices or somebody has an accent, I'll definitely like watch interviews of like celebrities just to hear some different like character voices, or if it's an accent, definitely finding a friend or somebody that is that has that accent natively, just another excuse to scroll accent TikTok or anything else.
Well, speaking of accents, we are suckers for accents. But it's what we do. We're suckers for them. What is your favorite accent to perform?
I have a complicated relationship with accents because I love them. I love doing them. And early on in my audiobook career, got ripped a new asshole for one that I did, and was like, am I actually terrible at accents? Like, I'm trained to do this. And I thought I was getting some good feedback, but apparently I've ruined this person's life with what I've done. So now that is a time that a review did really stick in my head. And so I'm a lot more cautious about them. Fun ones for me to do. It's fun to do Persian because I just get to there's no other time that I really bring my like inspiration from my family in, but my dad's side of the family is Iranian. So being able to be like, oh, is this character more like my aunt or more like my dad or, my cousin? So that's a fun one to do because just the reference work I get to do. Plus I think it's just such a beautiful language and accent. So it's definitely a fun one for me to do.
So on the opposite side, which is one of the hardest for you to do?
So I can't do Australian or New Zealand. My grandmother's from New Zealand, and I spent so much time. I think she thought I was a sociopath, like trying to get her accent, like repeating it back to her. And she's like, "Why are you doing this weird accent back to me?" It's like, I know it's not. I failed. Okay, I can't do that. So they're really tough, and I actually have a tricky time with Italian because it ends up like morphing. I have to be really, really focused on it so that it doesn't morph in different ways to something that basically is just Super Mario. So, know your limits, I guess.
Yeah,
is
because Super Mario is not sexy.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you could find some videos online that have reimagined Mario and Luigi and Peach being quite
yes, I will.
in their own right. But no, in general, I would say in general, It's a Me Mario is not getting anybody off. So
yeah. There's that fine line, about keeping it enough where I'm like, oh, is that Italian versus the fuck is she doing?
Yeah. And I think in general for all of this, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier, but especially with accents, the best advice I ever got from any of my teachers was always like, okay, whatever you think it is, like take it one step at least back from that. Because again, much like the male voices, female narrators doing male voices, there's a weird line where it's like you want to give somebody enough that their imagination can take it further. Unless, of course, you speak of that accent, it's an authentic accent to you, and then you're right on the nose. But I would say if you're not super confident that it's right on the nose, just lean out of it a little bit, and that'll serve you better than going all the way. I speak from terrible experience. I can send you the awful reviews if you'd like.
I may have so this might make you feel better. So there it was a narrator who is from Ireland, and he is Irish, and he has a very, his accent is, again, what we think is not, to me, it's not a very heavy accent because he's been living in the States and abroad and everything, but you can tell he's Irish. And the review was, and the character was Irish. And the review's like, I don't know who they got to narrate, but there was like no Irish accents. And I'm going, hey, they think that you're not Irish.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened to a British. It goes, same thing with a British narrator. I don't understand where the British, why do they think that his British is so good? It was awful. And I'm like, born and raised in Britain.
I mean, we've said this so many times already. It really is so subjective, and you can be the real deal, and it will not be what somebody imagined or wants in their mind for this. And you just gotta go, okay, well, sorry.
Yeah, that's what when those two particular came to, I'm going, if you only knew.
Yeah.
Next time, make it more Irish.
Also, let's be real, right? Like, just like any country, it's going to have a diaspora of, accents and subtleties in there. So, there isn't one accent for any country, just like in the United States, whether or not you're in some place or another. So it's definitely like, it's shades.
Yeah. My favorite is when it comes down, they have a Southern accent. And I'm like, let's define this, please. Southern.
Oh, yes.
Savannah,
please.
Georgia, Southern Atlanta, Southern Texas, or Alabama. So,
wildly different. And are you in New Orleans? Like, I mean, they're so different. And anytime somebody's like, oh, Southern, or the other one, I grew up in Kansas, but you're like, they're from Kansas. They have a Southern accent. I was like, no. They don't. That's they don't. If they're from Kansas, maybe a different era, but no, they probably don't. As compared to anywhere else.
Yeah, it's always fun when that happens. I'm going, we need to specify because someone will tell you.
I see that all the time. A lot of listeners that are from the South that listen to audiobooks will almost avoid books that have Southern characters in it because they're like, look, I'm from here and you're telling me that these characters from here, and they're not. That's not.
No, they mispronounced that street road or that bridge. It's not how we pronounce it.
Oh yeah, it's like people who are like New York characters, and they're on Houston Street. And you're like, Houston Street? Houston? Have you ever been to New York?
Yeah. Yeah, Louisville. It's another one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So with the romance, I like to describe it as an romance being an umbrella term where all the different subgenres are underneath it. And, from paranormal to historical romance to sci-fi, what's your favorite to perform?
So maybe you can help me out with this, because I am not so learned on because there's subgenres and then there's like the tropes too, right? Like you can have a historical romance that is enemies to lovers, say, right? Enemies to lovers is the trope and historical romance is the subgenre, right? So it's more like setting.
Yes. So the trope, which is lately has been getting a lot more focus than the genre. I think it's because what the story's about. Is it the two of them? Why? It's like, are they enemies to lovers? Are they best friends to lovers? If it's a billionaire office situation, sports and things like that. And that's where all the different tropes are coming into play, where people want to read a specific type of book, regardless maybe if it's shifters or aliens or a historical romance in Victorian England, and all that fun stuff. They want the enemies to lovers. So those are that.
Yeah. So that makes sense. Yeah. Because I get, of course, probably more caught up in the tropes, mostly because I haven't done so many subgenres. I primarily have been cast in contemporary romance. And in that, like, some fantasy, like I did a fantasy series this year, or some like fantasy elements. And I did do like a time travel romance. That was really, really fun. But yeah, so I haven't had the chance really to explore too many other different ones. The mafia romance was really fun because it was a little bit darker. So I do like sometimes the stories that are dark romance, but again, haven't had the opportunity to do as many of those as I've often gotten cast in these kind of contemporary romances, which are wonderful and I love doing them. But anytime that I get to dip my toes into another one is always such a delight. So the fantasy romance or time travel romance, is fun because it usually means that you get to play around with more accents, but I might lose a lot of fans depending on the accent. But yeah, so that is definitely fun. But I'd love to get into some more like nitty gritty, dark and dirty romance.
Yeah, I could see you having fun also too with paranormal.
Yeah, I mean, there were shades of that in this Kristen Proby series I did.
Oh yeah, she's good, but it's her paranormal is almost like a light paranormal, which is maybe,
totally.
Is it really? I mean, maybe it could happen. Oh, maybe that would explain a lot. Those little kind of things versus a full blown on shifter bear.
Right. Yes.
That's where the hair on my sweater came from. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. No, I have not had the chance to like fuck the shifter daddy of my dreams, but maybe my fingers are crossed that he will find his way to my box and we will have a great time together.
That's the title right there. Puck the shady shifter. He's a goalie. Yeah, he plays hockey during the day and it's a bear at night.
Yeah, he's a Sasquatch type, in the mountains of Canada, and then he's a hockey star during the day.
Yeah,
we've written 2 romance novels today already. We've got the cat burglar that's going into the studio, and now we have sexy Sasquatch, the hockey player.
We need to come up with a pen name and then start writing these books down.
Yes, let's get him out there.
Who's this new author?
Really unique concepts.
Okay. Yeah. What do you love most about narrating books?
I love books. I love stories. I love telling the stories. I love being the chance. I do I love the hours that I disappear into them when I'm in the box. Like there's nothing, much in the same way we've heard so many, heartwarming and amazing comments from so many of the listeners over the past couple of years that romance specifically, but audiobooks in general have been a really great escape for a lot of people. And for me as a performer, it's really great too, because I have to shut off all my notifications. I, have to just focus on what's here in front of me. So it helps me be really present. And it's just really exciting. And I love telling stories. I love being characters. And it's just a wonderful, it's a wonderful ride to go on. In the time that I have with these characters and the story that we have to tell.
Mm-hmm. So within the book, we have these different scenes, whether it's, a kid talking or having a moment with their parents, or the heroine and the hero bantering it out verbally or physically.
Maybe a little bit of both.
Maybe a little both. Yes. At the same time. Is there a type of scene that you love to narrate?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's part of the reason why I've really appreciated so much of the enemies to lovers that I've had this last year, had the chance to do, because I love a sass scene. Like I love the witty sparring, give it to me. And then I'm here if you've given me a good spice scene. Like they are so much fun to narrate. So yeah, I want the foreplay, I want the fighty foreplay, and then, give me some solid spice. I've definitely, in my years of doing this, my dog is snoring at me talking about, do you hear that? Yeah. He has this, yep. He just somehow every time, if I sneak, I gotta wake him up. If I wake him, if he's in here, if I'm just doing recording for a bit, he somehow always hits the snore when it is like spicy time and I have to kick him out. It's like I really feel, I'm like, have I bored you this much? Am I this bad? Cash.
It's funny too, because it's such an isolated, career for you guys. And yet you have, a lot of you guys have pets, but you can't obviously have them around because they'll bark or make noise. But he's there today. I was all excited because I'm like, oh, maybe we can get him to give us some stories. But that alone, the fact that he was snoring while you're talking about spicy, because it just says a lot.
It does. I mean, I was doing this one early on. I really thought, I was like, he's so quiet. He can be in here. It'll be fine. And he was so quiet. It was great. It was a great record. And I got to just the moment before, like, he slams her against the wall and kisses her and the tension is all there and it's building up. And I just was like, and I looked at him in the eyes and then I hear,
that's like, not the kind of growl that page says it's supposed to be.
I was like, so we have a problem with my line reading. Okay, bud. So I guess you're not staying in here anymore because you're a tough critic. So, oh my gosh. So yes, I love a witty fighty scene. And I also love a really well-written spice scene that my dog can groan and snore through.
But now that what about the opposite as far as the most difficult for you to narrate?
Oh, the hardest for me in any of these is especially when you're doing a series. This happens with Shell all the time, and I've given her like a hard time about it, not because it's a bad scene, but it's just difficult for me, which is in the Shell Bliss books, the Gallows are the main family that are in a lot of them, and there's always a dinner scene with the full family. And every time I get a Shell script, I'm like, do I have to do it or does the guy do it? Do I have to do it or does the guy do it?
Yeah, I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's every character. And I'm so invested in Shell's work because I've worked with her for so long. And she's just like my ride or die. I love her. So I put so much pressure on to be like, okay, what did I do for this voice in that book? Whoa, we're bringing back the cousins from Chicago. Okay. I think I know. So yeah, the ones where it's like in one chapter, you have 20 people show up and have dinner is always really, it's a vocal gymnastics, which can be fun, but is definitely stressful.
Yeah, now I have to ask her. So do you really do that to fuck with her?
No, she definitely does it. I mean, I think she loves like, the Gallows are so great and family is so much about what they're part of, but Shell's the best. I love her.
Yeah, no, I'm sure, but it's one of those like I could put this scene in the male's point of view or the heroine's point of view.
Well,
Samantha. She probably has a spreadsheet, like Samantha 5, me 4. Mm-hmm. I don't have to ask her.
I'm sure. She'll probably just say that should try to give them to me, probably because I've done more of the books in the series and so I would know these characters. And I'm like, yes, but then I'm going to let you down, girl. And I don't want to let you down. At least for the guy, you can just blame it and be like, well, he hasn't been on this series, but I have no excuses. I have no excuses for my failures.
No. Yeah, it's always, I think that's always been, when I ask that question, I always wonder if they're going to bust out with in the room 15 characters all at once kind of a thing, kind of concept. And you're going, damn it. Because not only the range, but as you were saying, the remembering of what they sounded like, what their cadence was, and how was it that I did this book 5 books before, 10 books before.
Yeah, well, and how do you make them not sound cartoony, but still give them a subtle enough shift while they're kind of conversing back and forth? So
yeah, but also when it's bantering or when they're having a fun time and they're interrupting each other, interrupting yourself is kind of interesting.
It can be, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to also make it make sense to the listener, so I can give a performance that feels very authentic to an interruption, but it actually is jarring on the ear, where you can't quite follow, like, oh, was that an audio glitch or what was that? So there are often times that your instincts or my instincts as a performer, I have to actually adjust a little bit because it sounds better for audio to do it, in a different way.
Yeah. Those are things too that I'm like, yeah, that's why I also like duet style. Cause I'm like, oh, this is going to be a good banter scene if it's duet. Cause I'm like, all right, guys, go at it. Let's go.
Yeah. I love that has become more prevalent, especially because it reminds me of like radio play stuff. Yes. I haven't done one. We've produced some at our studio, but I've never as an actor performed in one, and it would be really fun.
She's putting it out there, guys.
Putting it out there. I need to narrate more dark romance, a Sasquatch hockey player, and a duet. If they're all together, I'll make it happen. I can do it all together.
No pressure.
No pressure, universe. No pressure, universe.
Not at all. Is there an author that you have on your wish list to work with?
Ooh, that is a good question. And I'm only not going to answer it because I have been a creep and have been like slowly reaching out to people to try to be like, hey, check me out. I want to do your books. They're awesome. And I'm in a lull of not recording right now. And so I'm voraciously like reading recommendations that I've seen from the community. I did an end of year promotion for stuff and asked a lot of questions. I got like so many great recommendations. So I'm in the midst of wooing some authors and don't want to put any of that
because they're all awesome. And of course you want to work with all of them.
Yeah. And I don't want to like look like such a whore and be like, here's my long list of authors that I'd love. I mean, I'll do it all reverse harem style. It's fine, authors. But yeah, I think so. No, but there are so many, I think, and many of them are ones that write darker romance and like mafia romance stuff.
Nice. Okay. So what about narrators? Because you've been paired up with a lot of them, but you also sometimes get paired a lot with the same ones because your voices vibe together and jive. Is there a narrator that you have yet to work with that you want to?
I haven't done anything with Shane before, Shane East. So that would be really fun. And I haven't done anything. I don't think it came through. Yeah, because I think that one didn't actually go through. But with Joe Arden would be really fun. But I have been really lucky this last year that I did get to bounce around with a lot of different people. And there's some people that I get to always work with that, I never want to stop working with because they're just a delight. Jason is definitely one of them, and Lee Samuels is somebody else that I've been paired with a lot, and they're also just guys that I love working with because we just have fun. And in being able to chat before, as we're prepping books or even as we're recording, is nice because again, it's like so isolated. But yeah, I'd say those guys. I'd say Joe and Shane, I haven't had the chance to, and would be really fun.
Yeah. What about the girls? And not just from because a lot of times they're now casting multiple females for because they have multiple friends that are girls in the books. Any of them that you're like, oh, I would love to work with?
Well, I mean, I also am going to put out into the universe that I would do like a sapphic romance any day of the week. I would love to do that. So I know Erin Mallon from like a past life pre-audio, when I used to run a theater in New York. So it would be really fun to get to work with her in this capacity. And I love the kind of smokiness of Ava Lucas's voice, and would feel like that would be like really fun to be paired together for something there. And there's another gal that I work with that I don't see talked about so much because she's not on social, but I just love her voice so much. Kirsten Lee. And I just think she's got such beautiful musicality and brightness to her voice. And it would be fun to do something with her. And, if I had to try to get my voice in that place, because that's not exactly where mine sits, would be really fun as well.
Nice.
Yeah, ladies, I want all the ladies. Oh, they're so good.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes because again, the genre that we're listening to, we're always thinking about the co-narrator being of the opposite sex. Or, unless you're doing MM or FF and stuff like that a lot, then you're like going to there. But at the same time, like now with the full cast or, multicast and stuff like that you're like, ooh, even if it's, just from, two sisters' point of view of, dating, whatever, not writing that book. It's just one of those things where you're like, yeah, well, who are the ladies that you're like, yeah, would love to work with. So that's a good.
Yeah. I mean, I want to work with them all because quite honestly, I just admire what all of, and it probably is because like I have a female voice. So, I do spend a lot of time like listening to other female narrators and what they do in this genre and others. And I am always just like so in awe of, what they bring to it. And it's very, maybe I'm a total creep because I guess like I fixate on the female voices a little bit differently, but it's really awesome. Like how different everybody sounds and what they bring to it. And it really helps be like, oh my gosh, they're so perfect for this role. And, it would just be really awesome to work with them and like learn from them. Yeah, because the lady narrators, they're queens, man.
Yeah, so the reason why I call them queens of audio. No, they're great. It's a great group of ladies that you got there, and there's so many, awesome narrators that are up and coming, and some that just have not, or they've been doing it for a while, but for some reason they just have yet to hit that like moment where you're going, oh my god. Where you kind of like when you popped out, it would seem like out of nowhere, but you were around for a little bit, and it happens like that too. It's just one of those where I'm like, okay, well, who's gonna be next? So now I have to look up at you said Kirsten Lee. Yeah, I'll send you like the spelling of her name because it's a little bit, but it's she's just got a really beautiful voice. It's like I could listen to it forever, and it is interesting because I know that it definitely goes in trends for sure. And as we've already mentioned, like a lot of times the male narrators get a following and are booked really far out. I know some male narrators are basically booked for all of 2022 already, which is amazing. But for example, like next year might not, like I might have just had like a really great year, and next year may not be my year because I have, I don't have so much lined up. Because you're writing those 2 books, girl. That's why. Yeah, because they know the Cat Burglar and the Sasquatch books have to come out. So the universe was like, girl, wait, you're bringing these books. So yeah, I mean, it does come. Whoever knows why you stick with something, or why fans like you, or why studios want to cast you, or authors get into you. And, I just hope that I can continue to build relationships. Like I've really focused particularly in the last year of trying to figure out what is, I think because I'm a little bit of a spaz that's like a jack of all trades, master of none, because I work in so many different genres and types of audio, that for me,
for romance, I've really focused on like, well, I love talking to the community. I love the fandom. Like, it's just awesome. And I love being able to talk to authors, and building those relationships and seeing where those go. We already mentioned Shell, who I have an awesome relationship with.
Mhm.
And, if more of that popped up and then, throw a Sasquatch romance in there, then, I'd be set. I mean, I'm not going to cry if I blow up like anybody else has kind of blown up, but I do also recognize that it's like, who knows? Somebody could pop out of TikTok fame and be the next hot voice in romance audio and, whatever. But I'm happy to be here while I'm here. It's a fun party to be at.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a fun party, and you'll be around for a while, so don't worry about that.
Well, after I make my millions on the cat burglar, people are gonna think, who knew?
Yeah, exactly. That would be a fun one again. One of the things though that you have been doing lately, which I'm going, damn, I want to be Samantha when I grow up, is your Instagram.
Oh
my goodness.
Yes.
If you're not following her on Instagram, you're really missing out on some gorgeousness. I mean, the way that she times and does her posts, they all like align and they match. So like 3 across is one photo completely, and you're going, damn. And then now lately I think you hired an artist, or you're working with an artist that is actually doing some. Tell us about it, because it's a cartoon based off of the books that you're narrating. So tell us more about this, because I'm going to watch it.
So I am like a total sucker for a sexy grid on Instagram. So for the most part, much of last year I had a grid, and I, got to take some photos with a friend in the city, and we designed a whole grid. And that was sort of what was always there, knowing that I didn't have the capacity in all my various roles to keep my feed as updated as I would want. So the grid was sort of this like evergreen calling card that if you heard about me or looked me up, you got a vibe, you got a mood, and that was what you wanted. And my stories was really where I focused on a lot of my content for promotions, and also just like things that I think are sexy, songs that I think are good. Again, it's like show up to my Instagram, it's a mood, it's a vibe. And then the end of the year, I was just so taken by how engaging with the community really changed my relationship to this genre and this work, and just made it so deeply satisfying. And at the same time, another friend of mine was looking to switch up his portfolio of work, and he wanted to try some different things. And so he was looking to, have a client who asked him to do a bunch of illustrations. And I had noticed that, it's ironically, it's not actually my vibe. Like, I want photographs of like oiled abs and like the sexiest guy you've ever seen. Like, I'm a total pervert. So like, if I have my choice, I want like black and white photos, color photos, like, grasping of bodies. I want to see those finger indents on skin and like let my imagination do the rest. But illustration became really popular for romance titles this year. And I was like, is there a way that I can make illustrations feel like evoking a lot of the vibe that I want to evoke from these books, rather than feeling so, paper doll cutout, which I feel like a lot of them can go that direction. Some of them are really cool, but some of them sort of miss the mark, just like in anything. So I worked with my friend to do these illustrations for the my 9 favorite books that I narrated this last year. And it was so much fun to get to revisit those books, talk to him about what the characters and the plot were and the vibes, and see what he did with the designs. And then at the end of the year, I sort of posted them between Christmas and New Year's, a new one every day, gave away 5 audiobooks, and, use them in my stories with music. Cause again, like I talked earlier, like I love music, all the sort of textures to the experience, and then put it in my grid. But now I'm trying to figure out like what it changes to for the next year. Do they all go away? Do they become something else? Who knows?
No, yeah. And so at least now we have a cover artist for your book.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We are making this whole thing happen on this podcast. 2022 off to a great start.
No, I love his artwork. It's it can be subtle, but there's also you can see an emotion there. And I think sometimes that's what lacks. There's just, again, you were seeing cookie cutting as a drawing, but some of this stuff is so subtle, whether it's the angle of how he drew, like the couple up against like on the elevator,
Yes.
That was just like, and how I'm like, well, dude, she's missing a shoe. Damn. And so that there was a form of movement. Like, how did she lose her shoe? And then the latest one is with him sitting on the chair, and you're like, okay, then you see his shadow.
Yeah, there's some big D energy.
On that one. First of all, hello angle and Cher sitting down. And then there's that whole thing with, like his shadow. It's just like, oh, nicely done.
Yeah, right? Yeah. If
done.
You could see our text chain of like, reference photos, and then like, actually, I think the zipper undone is too far. So let's put the zipper up. Okay. Yeah. Actually, the shadow one is bulge. Oh, well, let's go right. It was a fun project, to say the least.
It was very creative, though. I love that about, sometimes when we get different people from the community working together, the fun stuff that can come out is amazing. And the new ideas also sprung, but you were able to mix like something new, and also from a narrator's perspective. No one has done that before. Usually it's one of those, I recorded, I'm done. Yeah. And now a lot of you guys are starting to be more active and be part of the marketing and, showcasing stuff and sharing your favorites. If you can remember, because there's a lot of books that you guys do narrate. And it's just to be able to do something like that so different. And I'm like, damn, she's good.
Well, thank you so much. It's honestly, it's inspired by the community, right? Like if I as a narrator have been given a ticket to the proverbial party because you like my voice and the work that I do there, then for me, a great way to engage and say like, I got the memo on what we're doing here, which is like celebrating stories that we collectively love and are excited about. And so many of the reviewers and the authors, right? Because authors are doing a lot of their own marketing work and stuff, are so creative in what they're doing. And I'm lucky enough to be able to have a career, in this industry. So I feel, it's really wonderful to be able to participate that way as well and go like, yeah, I can show you my, I can let my fan freak flag fly. Let's do this.
Well, definitely you'll have to, if of course he is okay with you sharing his information as far as the artist goes, so we can check out what else he does portfolio wise, because I also love
absolutely.
Art,
his name, I mean, I'll give you his tag to follow on Instagram. He's Phil V Designs and his name's Phil Visosic. And he's tagged in all the images and he's great. Use them for your book cover. He will be busy doing a Sasquatch cover and a cat burglar cover, but after that he's free.
Yeah, he's gonna be like, Samantha, what'd you do,
girl? No, he's gonna thank me because he won't have to do like boring promotional images for like corporate clients, and now he can just
that is true, now he can do sexy
books
who
doesn't want to pivot to like, well, for part of my work I draw sexy illustrations. Get it?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of new ways authors are trying to market their stuff, and I think sometimes they're looking to doing things like comic book ish kind of style or manga kind of things, or even just illustrating a scene of what that looks like from their head to show the readers and the listeners. So there's just a lot of opportunities when it comes down to different forms of the art that can come.
Yeah. I mean, I can't draw to save my life. You do not want me on your Pictionary team, which is why I hired somebody to help out. But I love visuals, like in visuals. So anybody who does like mood boards for books and finds great photos, or people that illustrate it, or like, getting lost on some like Tumblr fanfics that is just like, oh, you've really like drawn this out, but I'm here for it.
Yeah. So after all these many hats that you wear from, day jobs and other jobs and fanning and all that other fun stuff, and, seeking out new clients, because we don't like the word stalking. It has a negative connotation. When you're
what if I'm a sexy stalker? Is stalking okay if it's sexy?
No.
Is that okay? So we're all anti-stalking. Okay.
It's just a word. It's just, it's like, appreciate. Yeah, we got to figure something out.
No, but, it's the worst.
It's just the words. Yeah, it's negative. Yeah,
I am not stalking anyone.
Yeah,
just to be clear, I just want to clear the air there.
She will not be popping out of bushes or anything.
I'm not popping out of bushes. I have no camera. I don't condone it. I think it's a terrible practice.
There are boundaries, people.
Yes, absolutely. Do not. I just want to be clear. That was a joke.
Yeah. so funny. But thank you for clearing that up.
Mm-hmm.
When you're not working, what do you do for fun?
All sorts of things. So I moved out again. It's tough to keep my attention on too many different things. So I have like so many different activities and hobbies and interests going on. So I really love the outdoors. My very judgy dog, my little pit mix rescue. We go out and I love hiking with him and doing a lot of like forest explorers and bounding. He's great in the wild, so that's always really satisfying to me. And like camping is great. I love it. I'm so tied to technology all the time. It's really a nice experience. I also am like a huge nerd, so I'm on a tabletop role-playing podcast that records a couple times a month, and I do that and play those games. And it's been a really great way, especially over the past couple of years, as people have been isolated and spread out, to stay connected to a lot of my friend communities that haven't been in the same place. And and like lately I've been really like nerding out on finally being able to have some time to read to myself, and so digging into some genres that I haven't had the chance to read as much that I enjoy, which is like sci-fi fantasy. I'm reading this great book right now called Gideon the Ninth that's like lesbian necromancers in space, and it is so fun. So yeah, I would say that. And it's funny, I would generally say, but coming off of the holidays, I like don't want to go into the kitchen again forever. But if you talk to me before the holidays, as a culinary school dropout, I love any chance to like host dinners and cook and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't, I'll just keep on going on forever. Like, also, I got into succulents this year, and I have like a whole room of succulents. And I tried some painting, but I suck at it. And like, I mean, I could go on forever. So I think I'll just stop there.
Well, I know that, and I don't know if there's a way for your puppy there not to hear this, but if you could have any animal as a pet, and not just a domestic, I mean any animal, what would it be and why?
I mean, I do love my dog, so it's hard to think outside of the box of my very adorable dog. But let's say dogs are off the menu. If it was a reasonable relationship, so I live on a lot of land and near forest, and I have yet to see the black bears that live here. But if I could have like a chill vibe where they got their own space and they weren't in the house, and it was like, what up, black bear? How's it going? And like, we could just have a cool relationship where like, I don't know, we sat by the lake and they ate berries while I had lunch. And it was just like a really awesome, I think it would be incredible to have a relationship with an animal like that, large and sort of, that generally scares me. Like right now, if I walked out there, I'd be like, I really hope I don't run into the bear. But I think it would be amazing if we had like, a great thing. I wouldn't want to force it to live in my home or anything, because that feels like not cool for a bear. But, if I could have like just like a cool black bear friend, I'd feel kind of like a badass.
Yeah. That would be cool. Yeah, it's like, oh, gotta stop narrating because at 3:15 the bear comes back over there. We're gonna go in the porch and have some fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Coming to say hi. It's our bear date.
It's our bear date.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of a play date, it's a bear date.
Yeah, exactly. I'm also a sucker for a bear like type man, so maybe that's where that's coming from.
Now that says a lot.
It does. But
yeah, also, why you not even bat an eye when I busted out with bear shifter? Explains so much.
Well, now we found the third book in the series, which is my bear shifter boyfriend that I befriend in the forest.
That you think it's a normal bear.
Yes. And we just have a best friend. I'm like, it's so weird. This bear, we're friends.
He listens really well.
But he's a shifter. Gosh, I'm going to be so busy writing books next year.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be great.
Knowing that you do animation and different kind of voices, do you people that in your real life do they that know that? Do they ask you that lovely question of like, hey, do the voice, do the voice, do the voice?
So they're like nieces and nephews, when they're told some of the cartoons I've been on, they get really excited, and then they'll have watched an episode and then they ask to do the voice. And I have been told, that's not the voice. I don't think it's you. I think mom and dad are lying to me. So I think it's hilarious and it's great. And then I don't get asked a lot. So no, not so often do I get asked to do voices. My mom asks me to do, like, if we're hanging out with the family and like, making dinner or whatever, she'll often ask me to do like accents just because she's like delighted by it. But that's not like a specific character voice. No, the kids call me out. They don't like it. They're like, no, lady.
Yeah. Look, listen, it's on there in the credits. Look at the credits. Me.
I know. Well, it's so funny because it's like, well, it does sound different if I'm on a mic and if I'm doing, whatever.
That's editing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I guess maybe my heart wasn't in it when I was performing for that. I don't know. But tough critics, man. I'm surrounded by tough critics. Between the dog and the kids, I can't win.
No. It's probably why you love us romance listeners
it is.
So much.
You're the only nice ones. You're the only people nice to me. Everybody is so brutal. And the only place where I can find love is in the romance community.
If you could voice any Disney character, who would it be?
Oh, I think Jasmine, hands down. Yeah, I think I would go with the Middle Eastern vibe. She's also like awesome and badass, and she has like one of the best songs in all Disney movies, I feel like. So yeah, I'd have to go Jasmine.
Okay, what's your favorite word?
Oh God. Oh, this is should not be as difficult as it is. Why is this? Hold on, I'm gonna get my thoughts together. I can answer this. I gotta keep it simple. I don't know why I'm overthinking this so much. This is so embarrassing. Okay, hold on.
I would say, and it doesn't have to be in an English language. If you are multilingual, sometimes we have, or we have family from other countries. Sometimes they use a nickname or something, and just how it rolls out of the tongue just sounds lovely, even if they're calling you out on something.
Yeah, you know what? Thank you for that recommendation. You just were my lifeline for this question. I would have to say my favorite word is a term of endearment that gets added on in Farsi, which is and is used in English all the time in my bilingual household, which is junam, which is so my name, if my dad was giving me a nickname, he'd be like Sammy Junam, which is like my dearest, my heart. And it can also be June, so like Sammy June. So it's the fact that there is a way to tack on to somebody's nickname or name that it's like, I love you so much. You're my dearest. You're my most special. And they throw it around all the time. Like it's like a full expression of love and just a little word.
Also, it's like a clue. Like if you get that nickname, you're in.
Yes, right.
You have to do that, man.
And when you can say it, you can also be real bitchy and be like, if I'm just like, Sammy Janam, did you not do the dishes? I mean, I love you so much, but what is this mess that you left here? Come on, what is this?
Yeah, when they try to put that sweetness and you're going, damn, I fucked up.
Oh, I love a bless her heart sweetness type. I mean, I definitely was raised in a culture that had a lot of like, that sensibility.
Yeah.
Yes. That it's like, I am being so nice to you. And he's like, oh, I know everything that's under that tone.
Oh, goodness. I do love that too. It's one of the things
I don't know why
bilingual.
it's so delicious. Yeah, it's so delicious. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's almost like a secret code. So what is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
To be a general, that was a quick one too.
Yeah. See, favorite word, fine. Favorite curse word, just fuck, man. Just
fuck.
Yes. It's good, it's bad, it's all of the above. It's a verb, it's not, it's
Noun.
great.
Yeah. It has a nice variety. And can be used with emphasis.
It's versatile. It's very flexible.
Yeah, it is. what song do you have to sing along with when you hear it, regardless of where it is? Supermarket, in the car, in the shower.
Ooh, regardless of where it is, I have to sing. So there's a Queen song, Break Free, that was in, like, I did it in there was like a college performance I did. And I cannot sing to save my life. You do not want to karaoke with me if you want to keep your eardrums. Like, it's just, I'm a terrible singer. But I had to sing in this production, a part of it. So I had to listen to that song a bajillion times. And every time I've mended my relationship to the song and I love it. It's great. It's fun. But every time it's on, it's like a muscle memory of like, this was the one time you performed a song in public. Sing it again.
Do it again. You remember the moves? Did you have to do any moves?
Yeah, I had to wear a very skimpy outfit and straddle a dead body. So that's what that was.
That's a visual.
You know, it serves the story.
It does, yes. If it progresses and moves the story forward, it's okay.
Yes, it's true. It's true.
On that note, we've gone to the game section of our conversation.
Oh my gosh.
So we're gonna so we do have this fun section where we do, a game with our guests. It's called Two Truths and a Lie. Whereby guest gives us 3 things about themselves and we have to figure out if which ones is the lie. And I do like to say we, because I do like to think that the listeners are playing along, hopefully. And this is not
you should.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us 3 things and then we'll try to figure out which is the lie.
All right. Have you gotten your theme music for Two Truths and a Lie yet?
No, I need to.
Yeah, we got like boop,
so now you can yep.
I told you I can't sing. So okay, my 2 truths and a lie. I've worked directly under 2 billionaires and only one of them invited me to his hotel room. I met my husband while we were both volunteering on a presidential campaign. We were the last 2 at the office and one thing led to another. I have snuck into a beau's house to hook up while there was a holiday party happening with his family upstairs.
She's good, folks. She's good.
That's why she's got to write cat burglar, bear shifter, Sasquatch romance.
So it's like, so Samantha, which book are we writing now? Which one of your adventures?
Who knows?
Okay, so worked for 2 billionaires, of which only one invited you to the hotel. Met your husband working for a presidential campaign, and one thing led to another. Or you sneaked into a beau's house while they were having a party. And have some fun with the beau.
Yes, holiday party with family upstairs.
And she did her homework. She got the assignments and she did it right, as the TikTok theme says. Because
I understood the assignment.
Yes, she understood it. Yeah, and they're all very probable. That's the other problem. It's like, damn it. The husband meeting in the presidential campaign is a lie.
You are correct. I really thought I was going to stump you. Yeah, no.
Yes, I got my groove back.
Yeah, get it.
So the other 2 are true.
The other 2 are true. I have worked for 2 billionaires very closely, and only one of them invited me to his hotel room, but in a not sexy way. He was they were both very old, and one of them was kind, one of them was not. And the hotel room was really like, because he had pissed off his wife and I had to bring him stuff. So that was not a fun hotel visit. And then, yes, when I was coming back, I was freshman year of college, and I came back and there was a guy from my high school that lived in my neighborhood, and got a booty call, and I walked into that basement while his family was singing carols upstairs. One of my finer moments. Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh man, finally. He was so like, I was so into him in high school, but I like always had boyfriends, and we were both back for the holidays. So what better time? The romance novel writes itself.
Yeah, I was gonna say that one's a holiday there, but that's a keeper.
There you go.
that would be picked up by Hallmark. No.
Well, I mean,
Well,
it's a little spicier. It's a little spicier than most Hallmark.
That part of the thing, then it gets moved over to Passion Flicks because
yes, there you go.
Yeah, or Netflix. Who knows nowadays? Hulu, whatever. Amazon.
Yeah. You can bang anywhere on any streaming service.
You can bang here, you can bang there, you can bang everywhere.
Just not on Hallmark. Hallmark's the only place. It's like, let's not bang. Let's keep his face safe from banging.
Yeah, it's just face to black. That was fun. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. It makes me curious about how you did meet your husband, but I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to ask.
Oh, I mean, it's not a secret. It's way less interesting. We were working together. On a theater production that I was the producer on. And he was the production manager and was overseeing like the construction of everything. And I had a day, we knew each other sort of that way, but I had a day that we had to pass off keys for something and run a bunch of errands. And he brought me the keys and then was like, do you want help for the rest of these errands in the city? And so he like tagged along for my day of running around the city and helped me like carry stuff and do stuff. And then at the end of it, he was like, you want to go to a bar? I was like, yeah, sure. And then when that bar was done, he's like, you want to go to another one? And okay. And then it was like, he offered the last stop was that we had agreed he was going to walk me to the subway. And if we found a bar before we got to the subway, we'd have one more night. We'd have a nightcap. And if not, he had walked me to the subway home. We did not find a bar, but then he did ask if he could pick up a 6-pack and have a nightcap at my place, which I thought I really respected the game. So
it was a good game. Start off, if you're listening, guys, start off by helping her do some errands.
Yes. I mean, prove you're capable.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. But yeah. And then, but the worst part was that I was like, okay, I've had a couple cocktails. This guy's into me. He asked to like pick up a 6-pack, come back to my apartment. Okay, let's do this. And then we did sit on the couch at opposite ends for a very long time. And I was very confused. I was like, does he? And then he talked about how we had this rehearsal the next day and had mentioned that it was an easier commute from my place. And I about strangled him. I was like, did you just use me for an easier commute tomorrow? What in the actual fuck? Oh, I made a terrible choice. But then, somebody made a move and,
one thing led to another. And here we are.
One thing led to another. And we were sweaty and high-fiving afterwards and being like, okay, that's how that's supposed to go. So,
yeah. So see, helping, with errands is productive.
It is. Yes, in more ways than one.
Before we go, Samantha, can you tell us what you're currently working on and if you can share what's coming up next for you?
So I had mentioned earlier, so I'm on a little bit of a booth break, which is nice, but coming out in January, probably by the time this comes out, they'll already be out. There are 4 awesome titles that I did earlier in December. Vic, which is a mafia romance by Belle Aurora. 2 books that are a part of a Bayside Heroes series. One of them is Tangled Up by Tia Louise. The other one is Screwed Up by Harlow Ray. Delicious, fun spice. I went and I got the other 2 books in the series that I didn't narrate because I just had so much fun reading them. And then the last one is Ashes by Shel Bliss, who I've already mentioned is my ride or die. This is one of my favorite Shel Bliss books I've done. I love the Gallow Girl in it. She is strong and feisty and, soft in all the right places. And the fella is good times. So yeah, they're all great. And they're all different. They're all different male co-narrators. So it's a fun smattering of gents and moi, if you want to check them out.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be including that on our post for the podcast. No, thank you for that. But thank you so much, Samantha, for taking the time to hang out with me today. It's been a pleasure and so much fun.
Yeah, it was a total blast. I hope the edit's not too much of a nightmare on my.
Oh, absolutely not. No. Yeah. And then also now, you have all this other assignment and homework that I just gave you.
I mean, you launched my author career.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. When I am promoting these books, I'll be like, check the pod. That's where the ideas happen. Mm-hmm. You'll get an author credit for helping.
if you're not following Samantha on social media or basically wherever she's at, you need to do it. I will be providing the links to all her sites where you can find her in the episode's post over at Viviana, Enchantress of Books. And until next time, happy listenings.
Thank you to all of our Audiobook Lovin Podcast Patreon. Special thanks to Nixley Zenner, Carol Liebner, Line Black Peterson, Brittany Robinette Leiter, Don Darch, Michelle Bastard, Nancy Billows. The Audiobook Lovin Podcast has special Patreon access levels. Join today to receive benefits including early access to episodes, shout-outs, special exclusive content, and much more. Support the podcast by becoming a Patreon at www.patreon.com/audiobookluvin. We thank you for your support.
Thank you for joining us on the Audiobook Lovin Podcast, hosted by Viviana, Enchantress of Books. For links and more information discussed in today's episode, previous podcasts, or the Audiobook Lovin Series, please visit our website, vivianaenchantressofbooks.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a positive review wherever you listen to our podcast. Until next time, happy listening.